There are moments in life when the smartest, strongest, and most powerful move you can make is not to say a single word, not one. Think about that for a second. How many times have you wanted to fire back, defend yourself, prove your point, or tell somebody exactly what they deserve to hear? And yet, if you had stayed silent, you would have walked away with your dignity intact, your power unshaken, and your peace of mind untouched. People often think silence is weakness. They think if you don't respond, you've lost. But the truth, silence is one of the sharpest weapons you'll ever carry. It disarms your enemies. It unsettles people who expect you to break. It makes others wonder what you know that they don't. Silence forces the world to fill in the blanks, and that's where your power lies. Imagine this: someone tries to humiliate you, waiting for you to explode, to lose control. Instead, you give them nothing, no reaction, no energy, just silence. Who wins? Not the person screaming for attention. You do. Because silence is not the absence of power, it is the control of it. Tonight, I want to take you deep into the 9 situations in life where silence will protect you, elevate you, and keep you 10 steps ahead of everyone else. If you master these, you'll learn that silence is not about being passive. It's about being strategic. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about never giving away your strength for free. So stay with me, because by the time we're done, you'll understand why silence is not weakness. It's the ultimate power play. Silence is one of the most underestimated powers we possess as human beings. People are trained to believe that speaking is strength, that having something to say gives them importance, that filling the air with words means they hold the upper hand. But in reality, silence carries a weight that words will never match. It is not the absence of voice, it is the presence of control. When you master silence, you no longer operate on the same level as everyone else. You rise above the noise, the chaos, the chatter of a world that can't stop talking. Think about the times you've been in a heated argument. Your emotions rise, your voice shakes, your heartbeat races, and your tongue wants to let everything out. Every insult, every comeback, every word designed to sting. And yet when you choose silence instead of unleashing that storm, you hold the true power. Words spoken in anger don't disappear. They leave scars, damage relationships, and often leave you regretting what you couldn't take back. But silence keeps your dignity untouchable. It protects your future from being poisoned by a moment of weakness. It reminds people that your emotions don't own you, you own them. Silence also intimidates in ways words cannot. When you stop talking, people start wondering. They begin to question themselves, their approach, their position. Silence makes others uncomfortable because it denies them what they crave most. Your energy, when you don't react, you rob them of the control they wanted over you. You make them sit with their own words, their own actions, their own mistakes. Silence turns the mirror back on them, and in that moment you've shifted the entire balance of power without lifting a finger. Look at history, look at leaders, look at the people who are remembered as wise. They were not the loudest voices in the room. They were the ones who spoke sparingly, who listened more than they talked, who chose silence until their words mattered. That's because silence builds gravity. It creates a presence. The less you speak, the more weight your words carry when you finally decide to use them. When someone who is always talking makes a statement, it's just more noise. But when someone who guards their words carefully chooses to speak, everyone listens. Silence makes your voice rare, and anything rare has value. Another power of silence is protection. The world is filled with traps, gossip, manipulation, baiting, and provocation. People will try to drag you into drama to get a reaction out of you. They'll twist your words, record your mistakes, spread your sentences out of context. And if you always feel the need to defend yourself, explain yourself, or prove yourself, you hand them the weapon they need to use against you. But if you learn to stay silent, they have nothing. No fuel, no evidence, no leverage. Silence is your shield, keeping you safe from battles that were never worth fighting in the first place. Silence also creates space for you to think. When you're quiet, you give yourself the gift of reflection. You stop reacting and start observing. You hear things others miss because they're too busy trying to speak over each other. You catch details, patterns, truths hidden in the noise. Silence sharpens your awareness, and awareness is power. The person who listens more always learns more. The one who stays quiet in the room often leaves with the greatest advantage, because while others were eager to be heard, you were absorbing information that they didn't even realize they were revealing. We live in a culture that glorifies constant expression. Post your thoughts, share your feelings, respond instantly, never hold back. But here's the truth. The more you reveal, the less mystery you carry. And when people know everything about you, how you think, how you feel, what makes you angry, what makes you insecure, you've given them the blueprint to control you. Silence protects your mystery. It keeps people guessing. It forces them to respect boundaries they cannot cross because they don't even know where those boundaries are. Silence gives you the advantage of unpredictability, and unpredictability is power. But silence isn't just about withholding, it's also about strength and restraint. Anyone can explode, anyone can argue, anyone can say the first thing that comes to their mind. That doesn't take power, it takes weakness. True power is restraint. It's knowing that you could say something, but you don't. It's realizing that not everything deserves your voice, your time, or your response. And when you master that, you rise above the petty level most people operate on. You show that your peace, your energy, your focus are far too valuable to waste on meaningless noise. Silence is also a teacher. It shows you who deserves your words and who doesn't. It reveals who can handle your absence without demanding your constant attention. It teaches you patience, control, discipline, qualities that separate people who are reactive from those who are powerful. Every time you choose silence, you train your mind to stay calm under pressure, to hold ground in chaos, to resist the urge to give away your strength for free. And in that training, you become unshakable. The world misunderstands silence. They see it as a lack, when it's really a weapon. They think it's retreat, when it's actually strategy. They assume silence means you have nothing to say. But the truth is, silence means you don't owe anyone an explanation, a defense, or a reaction. Silence says, I am in control. I decide when to speak and when not to. I decide where my energy goes. I decide who deserves access to me. And that, right there, is the power most people will never understand. When you master silence, you stop playing on everyone else's level. You stop chasing the last word. You stop wasting your energy trying to prove your worth. Instead, you let your presence, your actions, your results speak. Because silence is not weakness, it's dominance, it's confidence, it's peace. And in a world that can't stop talking, silence will always belong to the strongest person in the room. There are certain moments in life where silence is not only the smartest choice, it is the only choice if you want to protect your power, your dignity, and your peace. People believe that strength is measured by how quickly they can respond, how sharp their comeback is, or how loudly they can argue their point. But the truth is, silence often speaks louder than any words ever could. There are 9 situations where holding your tongue will give you the upper hand. And once you learn to master them, you'll realize that silence is not weakness, it's strategy. The first moment is when you are angry. Anger has the power to hijack your judgment. In the heat of the moment, you might think that speaking out will make you feel better, that throwing words like weapons will give you victory. But the damage caused by words spoken in anger doesn't fade away. Once they're out, they can't be taken back. Friendships have been destroyed, families torn apart, careers ruined, all because someone spoke when their emotions were louder than their reason. Silence in anger is not surrender. It is self-control. It is choosing not to hand over your power to a temporary emotion. By staying silent, you give yourself time to cool down, to think, to respond later with clarity instead of regret. The second moment is when someone tries to provoke you. The world is full of people who feed on reactions. They want to see you break, snap, lose control because your reaction gives them the satisfaction of knowing they've reached you. But what happens when you refuse to give them that satisfaction? When you stay silent, you starve their game. You deny them the reaction they crave. Your silence unsettles them more than any comeback ever could, because it forces them to sit in their own frustration. Power is not in the loud explosion, it is in the calm refusal to play their game. The third situation is when gossip is happening around you. Gossip is a trap. The moment you engage in it, your words become ammunition that can be twisted, repeated, and used against you. People who gossip to you will gossip about you. Staying silent when gossip arises is not just wisdom, it's protection. Your silence tells the world that you're not interested in tearing others down, and it keeps your reputation clean. Words can be distorted, but silence cannot be misquoted. When you choose not to add to the noise, you rise above the crowd. The fourth moment is when the timing is wrong. Sometimes it's not about what you say, but when you say it. Speaking too soon can ruin opportunities, destroy relationships, or reveal plans that should have remained private. Silence gives you the gift of timing. It teaches you patience, reminding you that not every moment is the right moment to speak. By waiting, you ensure that when you finally open your mouth, your words have maximum impact. Silence is the discipline that keeps you from wasting your voice on the wrong stage. The fifth situation is when your words won't change anything. There are times when no matter what you say, the other person won't listen. Their mind is closed, their decision is made, their walls are too high for your words to break through. And in those moments, silence is smarter than trying to convince them. Why waste energy on people who refuse to hear you? Why exhaust yourself repeating truths to ears that are already deaf? Silence teaches you to stop fighting losing battles. Instead of trying to win them over with words, you win by walking away with your peace intact. The sixth moment is when you don't have the full facts. Too many people speak first and think later. They make accusations without evidence, assumptions without truth, judgments without clarity, and in doing so, they expose their own ignorance. Silence protects you from that trap. By staying quiet until you know the truth, you guard your credibility. You avoid the embarrassment of being proven wrong. Silence in uncertainty is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the patience to gather knowledge before making your voice heard. The seventh situation is when someone underestimates you. People may doubt you, belittle you, dismiss you, and the natural urge is to defend yourself, to prove them wrong with words. But what's more powerful than silence in that moment? Because when you stay quiet, you let your results do the talking. Nothing silences critics more effectively than success. Silence robs them of the reaction they want and instead fuels your energy to keep building, keep working, keep achieving. When you allow your achievements to speak, your silence becomes the loudest declaration of all. The eighth moment is when listening is more valuable than speaking. Too often, people enter conversations only to respond, not to understand. They're so eager to be heard that they miss what's being said. But silence makes you a better listener. It allows you to learn to observe, to read between the lines. When you're silent, you see things others overlook. You hear the tone behind the words, the hesitation behind the confidence, the truth behind the lies. Silence makes you wise because it opens your ears to knowledge that words can never give you. And the ninth moment is when your peace is more important than proving a point. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every disagreement requires a war. Silence is often the most powerful statement you can make because it says, "My peace is more valuable than your chaos." When you choose silence in the face of negativity, you declare that your energy is too expensive to waste on the cheap opinions of others. Silence protects your inner calm and reminds you that walking away is not losing, it's winning on your own terms. In these 9 situations, silence becomes your shield, your weapon, and your strength. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret. It prevents others from controlling you. It protects your reputation. It gives you the power of timing. It helps you walk away from battles that don't deserve your energy. It keeps you humble when you don't have the facts. It allows your results to speak louder than any defense. It sharpens your listening, and it guards your peace. The world may tell you that silence means you're weak, but in reality, silence is the ultimate sign of power. It takes strength to hold your tongue when every part of you wants to speak. It takes wisdom to know that silence often screams louder than words, and it takes true confidence to trust that you don't always need to be heard to be understood. Master these moments and you'll learn that silence doesn't make you invisible. It makes you untouchable. Silence is often misunderstood. To many people, silence feels uncomfortable, awkward, even threatening. They rush to fill it with words because they believe that speaking makes them appear confident, knowledgeable, or strong. But if you study human behavior closely, you'll realize that silence reveals far more than words ever can. The psychology behind silence is deep, powerful, and often underestimated. When you understand how silence shapes the way people think, feel, and respond, you'll realize why it is one of the most effective tools you can ever master. At its core, silence is about control. In any conversation, the person who can remain calm and quiet often holds the advantage. When two people argue, the one who stays silent forces the other to fill the space with words. Those words, spoken out of frustration or nervousness, often reveal things they never meant to say. Silence creates pressure. It makes people uncomfortable because it takes away the rhythm they expect in communication. Humans are wired to seek balance in conversation. When someone stops talking, the other feels compelled to continue. And in that compulsion, they expose themselves. They give away information, they reveal their insecurities, and they sometimes even confess what they were trying to hide. Silence draws truth out of people without you ever having to demand it. Another aspect of silence is the way it builds mystery. We live in a world where oversharing is the norm. People post their thoughts, emotions, and opinions instantly. They tell everyone what they're thinking, what they're doing, how they're feeling. In that constant noise, the person who remains silent stands out. When you don't reveal everything about yourself, people begin to wonder, they become curious. They fill in the blanks with their own imagination, and often what they imagine is far more powerful than what you could ever say. Silence creates intrigue. It gives you a presence that talking too much can never achieve. That mystery is powerful because it keeps people guessing, and when people can't predict you, they respect you. Silence is also intimidating because it refuses to give energy to others. When someone insults you or tries to provoke you, their goal is to get a reaction. They want to see you break to prove that they have control over your emotions. But when you stay silent, you deny them that control. Your lack of reaction unsettles them because it sends a clear message: you don't have power over me. Psychologically, this is devastating for those who thrive on attention or conflict. Your silence becomes louder than any defense because it shows absolute control, and control is power. Another psychological effect of silence is its ability to magnify your words. When you finally choose to speak, if you are someone who speaks constantly, your words become background noise. People get used to hearing you, and your voice loses its impact. But when you are selective, when you remain silent until the moment truly matters, people pay attention. Silence builds anticipation. It makes others lean in, waiting for what you will say, because they know you don't waste words. And when you finally speak, your message carries weight, not because it is louder, but because it is rarer. Just like rare gems are more valuable than common stones, rare words are more powerful than constant chatter. Silence also protects your image in ways you may not realize. When you remain quiet in moments of conflict or uncertainty, you reduce the chances of saying something that could damage your reputation. Many people destroy opportunities by speaking too soon, defending themselves too quickly, or exposing information that should have been kept private. Silence gives you time to think, time to process, time to observe. And in that space, you make smarter decisions. It allows you to measure your response, instead of being ruled by impulse. Silence is a buffer between emotion and action, and that buffer is what separates the wise from the reckless. There is also a psychological strength in being able to sit comfortably with silence. Most people cannot. They rush to fill the gap because they feel exposed. Silence feels like a spotlight, like a void that demands attention. But those who can hold silence without anxiety project confidence. They show that they don't need constant validation or approval. They are secure enough in themselves to let silence exist without fear. And that kind of presence commands respect because it communicates strength without a single word. In human relationships, silence can be more powerful than arguments. When someone disrespects you, arguing back often escalates the conflict. But silence, walking away, refusing to engage, sends a stronger message. It shows that their behavior doesn't deserve your energy. It's not about ignoring the problem, but about showing that not everything deserves a response. Silence can end a fight before it begins, because it takes away the fuel that keeps conflict alive. It creates a boundary without words, and boundaries are essential to self-respect. Silence also plays a role in persuasion and negotiation. Skilled negotiators know that silence is one of the strongest tactics they can use. When you stop talking, you put pressure on the other side to fill the gap. They may reveal information, lower their demands, or make concessions just to break the silence. The same applies in everyday life. Silence forces others to reflect on their own words, to reconsider their position, to feel the weight of their actions. It can push people to correct themselves without you ever having to confront them directly. But perhaps the greatest psychological power of silence is the peace it brings to you. When you don't respond to everything, when you don't feel the need to defend yourself constantly, you free yourself from the chaos of the world. You stop giving your energy to meaningless battles. You stop being dragged into drama. You realize that your silence is not only protecting your power, but also protecting your peace of mind. It is a declaration that your inner calm is more valuable than winning an argument or proving a point. The psychology of silence is simple yet profound. It intimidates, it intrigues, it protects, it empowers, it creates mystery, builds anticipation, and keeps you in control. It makes others reveal themselves while keeping you shielded. It gives weight to your words, respect to your presence, and peace to your spirit. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes the rarest and most powerful tool you can wield. It is not emptiness, it is presence. It is not weakness, it is mastery. And those who understand this truth rise above the noise and command respect without ever needing to demand it. We live in a world that constantly tells us to speak your mind. It is promoted as the ultimate sign of confidence, courage, and authenticity. We are told that if we don't speak up right away, we are weak. That if we don't express every thought we have, we are being fake, and that silence somehow makes us invisible. But here's the reality. Speaking your mind is one of the most misunderstood concepts of our time. It's not that your voice doesn't matter. It's that not everything you think needs to be voiced. Not every opinion needs to be shared. And not every moment requires your words. The misconception is believing that speaking all the time is power, when in truth, it often reveals insecurity, weakness, and lack of control. People who speak their mind without thinking usually imagine they are being bold. They tell themselves that honesty requires immediate expression, that authenticity means saying exactly what you feel in the moment. But the truth is, there is a difference between honesty and recklessness. Honesty is guided by wisdom, by choosing the right time and the right words to make an impact. Recklessness is blurting out whatever comes to your mind, no matter the cost, and then calling it being real. But if your words damage your relationships, destroy opportunities, or expose vulnerabilities that could have been protected, that's not strength, that's self-sabotage. The belief that you must always speak your mind comes from the fear of being overlooked. Many people equate silence with weakness, so they rush to fill every moment with their voice. But in doing so, they dilute their own power. Think about it. When someone is always talking, always expressing, always explaining, their words start to lose value. People stop listening because there is nothing rare or intentional about what they say. On the other hand, the person who chooses their words carefully, who doesn't speak until the moment is right, has an authority that can't be ignored. Silence builds weight. It makes others pay attention. Another problem with this misconception is that it often confuses reaction with strength. When someone insults you, provokes you, or challenges you, the instinct is to clap back, to respond immediately, to show them you won't be disrespected. But reacting in the heat of the moment is not power, it's being controlled. You've given the other person exactly what they wanted, proof that they can pull your strings. Real power is restraint. It is the ability to stay silent when you could speak, to walk away when you could fight, to choose calm when chaos is being thrown at you. That is not weakness. That is mastery over yourself. Speaking your mind also often leads people into unnecessary conflicts. Not every thought you have needs to become a debate. Not every opinion you carry needs to be forced onto others. The more you speak, the more opportunities you give people to challenge you, criticize you, and use your words against you. Silence, on the other hand, keeps you safe from battles that don't matter. It allows you to pick your fights wisely instead of wasting energy on proving points to people who were never going to understand you anyway. When you stop needing to respond to everything, you start conserving your power for the things that truly matter. There's also a psychological layer to this misconception. Many people who feel the need to constantly speak their mind are actually seeking validation. They want to be heard, acknowledged, and affirmed. But in chasing that attention, they give away their power. They reveal too much what bothers them, what makes them angry, what keeps them insecure. And the moment you reveal your triggers, you hand people the map to control you. They now know how to get a reaction, how to push your buttons, how to throw you off balance. By staying silent, you keep your strength hidden. You protect your emotional world from being exploited. Another issue with glorifying speaking your mind is that it ignores the importance of timing. Words spoken at the wrong time can do more harm than words not spoken at all. Imagine criticizing someone in public when a private word would have been more effective. Imagine confessing a feeling before you've thought it through. Imagine making promises in a rush of emotion that you can't keep later. These mistakes don't come from dishonesty. They come from speaking too soon. Silence gives you the advantage of patience. It allows you to process your thoughts, evaluate the situation, and speak when the impact will be meaningful. Power doesn't come from being the fastest to speak. It comes from knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Now, does this mean you should never speak your mind? Absolutely not. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. But power lies in knowing that not everything requires expression, and that your voice becomes stronger when it is not used carelessly. Speaking your mind should not mean emptying your thoughts without filter. It should mean choosing words with intention, with clarity, and with purpose. It should mean understanding that silence is not the opposite of strength, but a partner to it. True wisdom lies in knowing when to use silence as your shield and when to use your words as your sword. The misconception of always speaking your mind has made people prisoners of their own voice. They think they are proving themselves, when in fact, they are wasting themselves. They believe they are showing courage, when in reality, they are showing lack of discipline. Real courage is not in saying everything that crosses your mind. Real courage is in knowing you could speak, but choosing not to, because your peace, your power, and your dignity matter more than winning an argument. In the end, silence is not about hiding who you are. It's about protecting who you are. It's about realizing that you don't owe the world constant access to your thoughts and emotions. You don't have to respond to every insult, engage in every debate, or prove yourself to every critic. Sometimes the loudest message you can send is the one you don't say. Sometimes the strongest way to speak your mind is by choosing silence. And when you understand this, you'll stop chasing the illusion of power in words and start mastering the reality of power in restraint. Silence, when mastered, becomes more than a habit. It becomes a superpower. Not the kind of power that shouts, demands, or forces attention, but the kind that radiates strength without trying. In a world where everyone is scrambling to be heard, the person who can stay silent stands apart. Silence is not passive. It is deliberate. It is not emptiness. It is presence. And when you learn how to wield it, silence can transform the way people see you, the way you see yourself, and the way you move through life. Power often gets confused with volume. We assume that the loudest voice in the room is the strongest, that the person who dominates every conversation is the one in control. But look closer, and you'll see that the ones who speak less often hold the true authority. Their silence makes people lean in. Their quietness makes others wonder. Silence creates an aura of self-possession, a signal that you don't need to perform for anyone because you already know who you are. That kind of energy is magnetic. It pulls respect toward you without you asking for it. The real strength of silence lies in the way it allows you to control yourself before you try to control the world around you. Most people react, they get provoked, they get emotional, and they hand their power over to the moment. But when you are silent, you are showing mastery over your impulses. You are proving that you are not controlled by anger, insecurity, or fear. You are in command of yourself, and that self-command is what makes you unshakable. A person who cannot control their tongue cannot control their destiny. But a person who has trained themselves to remain silent when it counts cannot be broken easily because their strength doesn't come from reaction. It comes from restraint. Silence is also a weapon, one sharper than any argument. In conflict, people expect resistance. They expect you to fight back, to prove yourself, to get dragged into the chaos. And when you don't, when you meet their storm with stillness, it throws them off balance. Silence is unsettling because it refuses to play the game. It denies the other person the satisfaction of knowing they've touched you. It leaves them talking to themselves, wrestling with their own words, while you stand untouched. That kind of composure is not weakness. It is dominance disguised as calm. But silence is not only a shield, it is also a mirror. When you stop talking, you create space for others to reveal themselves. They show you who they are through their words, their actions, their reactions. They expose their motives, their fears, their insecurities, things they might have hidden if you had been too busy speaking. Silence turns you into an observer, and observation is one of the greatest advantages you can have. The more you listen, the more you learn. The more you stay quiet, the more others tell you exactly what you need to know. Knowledge is power, and silence is how you gain it without ever asking. Another dimension of silence, as a superpower, is how it preserves your energy. Every time you engage in unnecessary arguments, every time you defend yourself against petty attacks, every time you waste words on people who aren't listening, you are draining yourself. Silence stops that leakage. It keeps your focus intact, your emotions steady, your mind clear. Instead of scattering your energy in 1,000 directions, silence gathers it, concentrates it, and allows you to channel it into things that actually matter, your goals, your growth, your future. Power isn't about exhausting yourself trying to be heard. It's about conserving yourself so you can be effective where it counts. Silence also strengthens your voice by making it rare. When you don't speak constantly, when you don't give everyone access to your thoughts, your words gain weight. People start to pay attention when you do speak because they know it's intentional, not random. They know you don't waste your voice on noise. This is why some of the greatest leaders, thinkers, and influencers throughout history were people of few words. Their silence gave their voice gravity, and gravity is what makes people listen. Perhaps one of the most overlooked powers of silence is the way it protects your inner peace. Life will always test you. People will provoke you, insult you, misunderstand you. If you try to fight every battle, you will live exhausted. If you try to prove yourself to everyone, you will live resentful. But silence frees you. It teaches you that not every insult deserves your attention. Not every fight deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to simply remain silent and keep walking. That choice says, my peace matters more than your opinion. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. There is also a spiritual depth to silence. When you're quiet, you hear things beyond noise, the voice of your intuition, the clarity of your conscience, the lessons life is trying to teach you. Silence brings you closer to yourself. It creates space for reflection, for self-awareness, for growth. It teaches you patience and humility, reminding you that you don't have to dominate every moment to have value. In silence, you discover strength that shouting can never give you. To call silence a superpower is not exaggeration. It disarms enemies, commands respect, builds presence, and guards your peace. It protects you from yourself and from others. It gives you control over your impulses and influence over situations. It makes you mysterious, unpredictable, and respected. Silence is the power to hold back when others rush forward, to stay calm when others lose control, to choose your battles while others fight needlessly. In a noisy world, silence becomes rare. And just like anything rare, it becomes valuable. People may underestimate it, but those who master it know the truth. Silence is not emptiness, it is strength. It is not passive, it is deliberate. It is not weakness, it is authority. And when you choose it wisely, silence will become your greatest weapon, your greatest shield, and your greatest power. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of strength, discipline, and wisdom. The world will try to provoke you, pull you into noise, demand that you prove yourself. But the truth is, you don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to waste your energy on people who were never going to understand you in the first place. Your silence will confuse them. It will frustrate them. It will force them to face themselves while you keep your peace. And in the end, your silence will protect you more than any argument ever could. It will guard your dignity, preserve your energy, and remind you that real power is not in being the loudest voice in the room. It is in being the calmest, the most controlled, the most unshakable. So the next time life tempts you to react, remember this: silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is your shield. It is your superpower. And when you master it, you won't just win arguments, you'll win yourself. And that is the greatest victory of all.